Hey everybody, welcome into the purple and gold clad Skoll Marketing Studios in beautiful downtown Hopkins, Minnesota. You can't see it, but rest assured there's a lot of Vikings memorabilia. We are feeling good for the Minnesota Vikings after, really, I would think maybe a season-saving win over the Detroit Lions. By the time this thing airs, they would have played the Baltimore Ravens, hopefully a win over Baltimore as well. But that's not what we're here to talk about. We are here to talk with Minnesota Vikings legend Chuck Foreman, inducted into the Vikings Ring of Honor. Should be an NFL Hall of Famer if you look at what he's done in the National Football League. And Chuck, this is your show. You are in the Spin Doctors Inn. I'm so glad to be here with you.
Hey, good to be back again this week and looking forward to our discussions.
Well, we've talked a lot about your time with the Minnesota Vikings.
Right.
And for those that are new to us, this is the Spin Doctors Inn. This is with Chuck Foreman. We're telling stories. He's telling the stories. I'm asking questions that maybe fans want to know. And Vikings fans, check us out on YouTube, iTunes, iHeart, Spotify, Podbean, anywhere that you get your podcasts, whether audio or video. Be sure to rate, review, subscribe, because this is the only place that you're going to get Chuck Foreman information right from the man himself. So we've talked a little bit about your time at Miami. We've just briefly kind of looked at it. I want to get into a little bit deeper because there are just so many stories that are there's a lot of things there that I think set the scene for your time with the Minnesota Vikings. And I mean, first of all, you're just talking about your family, man, and just the influence that they had in kind of helping you shape the person that you are.
Yeah, for sure. My parents and of course, my aunts, my uncles. Very blessed to have people like that in my life. And then our community that I grew up in was just really, really special also. But, my parents they set the foundation for the kind of people that they thought we should be. And I take that very seriously. My parents were disciplinarians. They insisted on us, being all that we can be. And they didn't tolerate us doing anything, halfway. You had your responsibilities and they expected you to to take care of those responsibilities. Mm-hmm. And it just went on and went on. And they, like I said, my mother, Janet, my father, Francis, man, two beautiful. I'm just blessed to have had them, as parents. So, and they, set the foundation for what they hoped we would be.
You talked about them before, and were they educators, or was your mom an educator? Did I understand that?
My father was an educator. My father was one of the first. Okay, first of all, my father went to Bowie State College at the time, and he graduated with a degree. And he was a teacher for a short period of time. Okay. He went there, and then he went to work for the government in a place called Fort Detrick, Maryland. My mother worked for a place called at one time it was the Atomic Energy Commission. Now they changed it to something else, and she worked down there, and she was that's what she did. She was one of the head, whatever you would call it, down there as far as running her crew. Very good jobs to have. And like I said, I'm from Maryland. Mm-hmm. Everybody in Maryland, for the most part that I knew, worked for the government. Whether it was the AEC or Dietrich, down in Washington, everybody had some tie to the government. Mm-hmm. in Maryland, in the DMV.
I have to assume it's just kind of the staffing is all over there.
It's like that's everybody had some tie to, or one of their family members was working for the government. Sure. That's for sure. So they had a pretty stable income. It was really good to work for them, good benefits and stuff like that. But my father was one of the first men in the officers candidate schools back in his time. as one of the first black men that were in that program.
Oh,
He came
wow.
out, yeah, that he came out of that, and then, of course, he was a great athlete himself. But back in those days, they didn't get the opportunities to do it at the next level. But my father, boy, when I used to go watch him and stuff, he was an excess. So was my mother, for that matter. But my childhood was like, I didn't think anybody could have one better. To be quite honest with you, we'd ever all the other things growing up, whether it was integration and all that stuff coming up, and then me being a part of that transition when I was younger, because I remember it vividly when, the schools were integrating, because we used to have one school, I just had the Lincoln High School and all that, and then elementary schools, and then they, integrated the schools, and everybody went to Frederick High. My mother's high school became the elementary school. And the transition, in my opinion, from my experience, was fairly smooth, because in our hometown, we, I guess adults acted like adults, whether you were black or white. They tried to figure out a way, and they finally did that. Not saying that it wasn't some extremism there, but I think cooler heads prevailed, and the better came out ahead.
So when these schools are being integrated,
Right.
like, what did you have any concerns? Were you scared? Were you nervous? Like,
Well, I wasn't. See, my parents sent us to St. John's Academy. It was a Catholic school. 'Cause
Okay.
I grew up Catholic, and that was because my mother's aunt, Ruth Chase, she felt that we would get better educated at St. John's, which was, we integrated that too. We were only like 5 black kids in the whole school, and my brothers and sisters and I, and plus 3 or 4 other people. And so we became familiar with racism and stuff like that.
yeah, how were the other kids? How did the other kids receive you when you guys start to get, you integrate these two schools?
It was fairly smooth when I was at St. John's, and then when we went to when they integrated the schools in Frederick, the public schools, we were still at the Catholic school, the parochial school. So, and then over there at the public schools, they had all the sports programs, and I remember in the 5th grade, I'm like, they held me back one year. And it wasn't because I couldn't do the work. It was because when they would give us the test, they wanted you to, go through the whole problem, and I could always go through the problem through my head and give the answer.
Oh, show your work?
So I couldn't I couldn't put it down on paper the way they wanted me to put it. But, the thing was that they thought I might have been cheating. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so, but as it turns out, I just was blessed to have that ability to go through numbers and stuff like that. But I just couldn't I couldn't take it from up in my brain and put it on the paper the correct way, the way they wanted me to do it. I could do it my way, but it made sense to me, but not to them.
Yeah, you got to show your work, but if you don't show it in the way that they teach it,
then it's wrong.
They're going to be, it's you might get to the answer, but the process, right?
Right. So like it went like that until when they held me back. I'm like, I told my mom, I said, I answered all the questions in class and all these different things, and then she finally went to the school, and then I told her I wasn't going to go back to that school because I didn't like it. And then my brothers and sisters, we all when it was time for us to go to school, we left the house that when I was supposed to go to the 6th grade, we leave the house, but we wouldn't go to school. We'd go to the park and just hang out and do some other stuff until it was time to go home. And so like 3 days into school, they got a call from the school, from the principal, saying that we didn't show up to school, and why weren't we in school? And that's when we told our parents we weren't going back to that school.
And what I mean, what were their reaction? Because I get the sense that education very important, and it's
Very much so.
You had a stable home life, so it seemed like everything was everything was good.
We had everything. My father, he when he got home from work, he made sure we got our lessons right. I knew everything. My brothers and we, all of us, but I mean, we weren't going back to it because we also wanted to play sports too. And
Sure.
We couldn't do it at that school. They didn't have a sports program, and then, we got to go to public school, and it just started to integrate, and certainly there was a few issues, but not a lot. And we were able to adapt to that, and then sky's the limit. Frederick High School went on to win, I can't tell you how many championships and how many great football teams, basketball teams, track teams they had. I was a part of them. My brothers were a part of them. And, for the most part, I think, in my opinion, this transition was very smooth.
How much do you feel like you're being an athlete and your brothers and just having that kind of help you integrate and it made it easier, right? I mean, I would have to assume that being an athlete definitely made it easier because you were a part of that athletic success.
I think the community in itself made it easier. In my opinion, certainly there were some issues here and there, no doubt about it. Some things we had to overcome and some things we had to navigate through. But for the most part, I think our community, where I grew up, and the other community were able to, find the happy medium and make it work. And I'm not saying things didn't exist, but I'm saying the many overcame the few, and that's what made it That's what made it the transition a little bit better. Some people didn't take it, well, but that's their issue, not mine.
Yeah, because you said that your community took it well, and it was easy for you when you're out there and you're playing football and doing track and everything. What was the response like from other communities?
Well, let me just put it to you this way. I grew up in a strong community, black community, with strong leadership, strong parents. Everybody most of the people that had mom and dad around. It's a whole totally different thing. There was some single people with children and stuff like that, but the whole community was there to work together. We had our own stores. We had our own clothing stores. We had our own grocery stores. All those things in our community that before integration happened.
It was really self-sufficient.
It was self-sufficient, and and all the people in our community, we had great, strong people leading our community or helping our community to develop. My parents won, and all my parents' friends were also there. So that's the way that went. So.
No, I think it's interesting that you talk about it that way, because I think a lot of people have the impression, and I don't like the stereotype
Right.
where it's like, okay, you're coming from a community that you're lesser than, you need you need that integration in order to succeed, and
that's not the case. It was a great thing to happen, no question about it. But people don't understand. Our communities were strong. We had our own stores, our own banks, everything. You need money. There's a place you could go get money. If
you had it,
we had all that. So that's the misconception a lot of people have about a black community or a minority community, what have you. But that's not the case. Certainly integration, I think, opened a lot of doors for a lot of people, no question about it. And I am a product of a good system. But what I am saying is, like, a lot of people have a misconception
yes,
about the abilities of a minority to function in with high responsibilities, and that's totally from the truth. And and it's kind of sad in a way. But my parents, my community where I grew up, made sure we were strong men and strong women to believe in yourself, to believe in your abilities, and if you put the work in, you do what you need to do, you can be successful.
You grew up in Frederick, Maryland,
Right.
and it sounds like they were very accepting of understanding the change,
Right.
in social norms and culturally.
Well, yeah, I'm not saying there wasn't any issues. There were some, but like I said, the many overcame the few.
Yeah.
And so they were put on the back burner. They certainly had their right. That's the great thing about a democracy. You can think and feel the way you want,
Even if you don't agree with it.
If you don't agree with it,
Absolutely.
that's fine with me. They have that right. But what I'm saying to you is, like, our community was strong. It was, we had a lot of great people on both sides that were working together to make sure. I mean, my father used to they used to have a softball team, and it was integrated softball team. And I go there where he worked at Fort Detrick, and we used to go out there and hey, no problems.
A great socializing activity.
Right, so it's a great socializing. My father kind of worked with the police in a way, you know what I mean? Him and a few other black men in our community to make sure, they could navigate through the issues that may be presented. There's a lot of things in those days that, my life experience is totally different than a life experience from a kid today.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Because there were things that we had to do and we had to navigate to make sure that the people that came behind us, those doors would remain open. They just needed to know how to get in there and navigate when they got there.
So, I was going to ask, growing up in Maryland, and then
Right.
you end up going to school at Miami, but
Right.
when you're considering, going to college, were there other universities or places that you considered, and did the cultural aspect, did that play into it?
Well, I considered Maryland. I considered Michigan State. I considered Syracuse, West Virginia, places like that. You name it, mostly I had basketball and football offers. So, but my experience, or the way I got exposed to Miami, was kind of weird. Is that we were playing a school called Bel Air High School in Maryland. They were the number 1 and number 2 team in the state. We weren't even, I don't know if we were ranked or what, but after that game, we sure were. Because I think I might have scored, I don't know how many touchdowns. I had 2 called back. I remember that. And that was I played tight end and defensive tackle.
Okay.
And Bel Air had an offensive tackle and some other guy that my University of Miami was recruiting.
They were looking at?
Yeah,
Okay.
looking at and everything. So I don't know. I got a call. Well, I got a call from this guy named C.T. Hughley. He was the recruiting coordinator at the University of Miami at the time, and he was a military guy. He had lived in Virginia. He was like, he'd been to Vietnam like 3 or 4 times.
Oh, he's no nonsense.
He was a no nonsense kind of guy, which impressed my father and mother, by the way. And he's just a good guy and everything. And he invited me down on a recruiting trip to Miami.
And the first time that you talked to him?
Right. Well, yeah. Well, he had seen me, and then he invited when he came, and he talked to us, and I decided I'd take that trip. Now just remind you, this is 68 when he was coming to me. I didn't graduate to 69 in high school. I finally took my trip to Miami, and I met, the first black athlete at Miami was a guy by the name of Ray Bellamy.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about Ray.
Right. Ray was a great football player. Unfortunately, he got hurt in the car accident and snapped his femur. And he never got the speed back that he had, but he was like 6'4.5", could run like the wind, was one of the best. He would have been the number 1 receiver off the board had he not been injured. But there was Ray, and then there was Tom Sullivan, the other black athlete there. Mm-hmm. And so those were the first 2. And then I was the third. and then a guy by the name of Burgess Owens and we came in at the same time, but I like to say I was the third. But anyway, so our whole path and our whole path was different than current players because we were setting and laying a foundation so that somebody else come in behind us, you know. Then we had a guy named playing basketball by the name of Willie Allen. He was from Maryland, Rockville. And so I decided to go to Miami. Out of all the schools I could have went to, and everybody was like, why are you going down there? They don't, you know, it's Miami. And then the real reality set in that I was really going to pave the way for other people of my color to come to the University of Miami of Florida.
So what were your parents' reactions when you told them that you wanted to go to Miami?
My mother was like,
I saw the ooh on your face.
My mother said, "Oh, you know,
heck no."
No, she said the other word. You know, my father was like, "Why you want to go down there, boy?" I'm like, "I don't know. I liked it, Dad." He said, "What do you like about that?" I said, "The people seem to be real nice, and it was warm."
Yeah,
and so forth. So
don't have to shovel heat. Don't have to shovel heat.
I like the palm trees and everything else. Anyway, so after having,
I'm sure the ladies in South Beach are nice too.
Well, South Beach wasn't what it is today back in those days.
True,
South Beach was just a place where people came from up north. Most of them were very wealthy Jewish families. They came down and they lived. They had a lot of the people that I got to know at the University of Miami. Their grandparents lived on South Beach at the time.
Okay.
But South Beach wasn't South Beach of today.
It wasn't the party and atmosphere.
Yeah, there was, you know, I remember Alan. I had two guys that I knew were real close to. They were my neighbors in the 960 dorm as freshmen. I used to go with them over on the beach with their grandparents and have them on Sundays or something like that, and they have some breakfast or something like that with them. But anyway, getting to Miami, you know, when I decided to go to Miami, my parents had me a big sit down to make sure I understood what I was doing.
What was the biggest concern they had?
That I would be able to function or handle what may be coming my way, because they knew if somebody came at me a different way, that I wouldn't be turning my cheek. Mm-hmm. And they were concerned about me speaking without thinking. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it does.
Or reacting to things that I had to take a couple deep breaths and react differently. But they would give me all these scenarios and stuff like that. And my father said, "Now listen, I'm going to let you go do this, but you got to promise me that you're going to do a lot more thinking than reacting." Mm-hmm. And I'm like, "Oh, I can handle that." I said, "I know what you can do, but will you?" You know, but then, you know, I'm going to Miami. You know,
it's easy to say yes without being in that situation.
And Miami is an international town.
Sure.
For the most part, you know, people from all over the world.
Lots of diversity.
Let's put it, at the University of Miami it was. Mm-hmm. And then, you know, we had like where I lived at the University of Miami in Coral Gables across the street was South Miami, which was mainly a black neighborhood with a lot of great people over there. I had some friends over there that they introduced us to through the University of Miami. Okay. Where I could go have dinner and stuff like go to church. And
you can kind of, you could be comfortable, right?
Gave us, so I could be comfortable. Then I met some people down there that went to the university. And so the transition for me and the things that we had to do, Ray, Tom, myself, Burgess, you know, we had to, number one, set the standard as far as making sure we got we didn't miss a class. It wasn't none of that, you know.
Did you guys feel like maybe there was some more unfair scrutiny on you guys more so than maybe some of the white players that were in the same situation, or the white athletes?
There may have been, but I didn't feel it. Okay, let's put it like that. Because look, when we were there, we studied together. Mm-hmm. We worked out together. I mean, not saying that we didn't have white friends or anything like that, or teammates or anything that did, but, you know, we knew and understood our purpose. Number one.
It sounds like you guys were kind of your own support system.
Well, yeah, sort of, but it's same thing. We would come down there to play football. Number one.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, so when you come down south and you come to a southern school, you better be ready to play some football because we played a tough schedule. But the bottom line is, we all Burgess. His father was a professor at Florida A&M, and he, for instance, lived in Africa. His father was a professor of agronomy up there at Florida A&M. Then they lived in someplace in Africa for like a couple years, and he tells stories. So he had that type of experience when he came in there. Ray's parents were migrant workers for the most part, and he's got a lot of brothers and sisters and hard-working people. Tom Sullivan, his father, was a military man, so he traveled all around in Germany and all these different places he lived. My parents, of course, my father worked for the government, was a college graduate back in those days, from Bowie State, Maryland, and in their Hall of Fame. And so we all came from good, strong backgrounds with the understanding that, number one, we wanted to graduate, no question, because, none of us thought we were going to play any pro football. My thing was to go down here, go play football, get my degree, come back home and teach.
Okay, good, because that was going to be my question,
Right.
my next one. Like, okay, you ended up with an NFL career, but when you go down there, your emphasis is on getting your degree.
Right.
Okay, and that's one thing I want people to convey is that you go down there, and yeah, you're a fantastic athlete,
Right.
but ultimately you're down there still with the end goal of making sure that you get a degree and come back and paying it forward in your community.
And that was my goal. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, I get down there, and I'm just, and another thing too, I grew up in an area where we had a lot of great athletes. Now, fortunately for me, I took advantage of it. There was a few others before me, my brother, other guys that went on to play college football and basketball. Gordon Smith played at the University of Cincinnati, and he would have been a number one choice, but he ended up playing with the Boston Celtics. And boy, there were so many great athletes there. But the doors were just open because generally, back in those days, a black athlete went to an HBCU.
HBC, sure. Here.
That was just automatic. Just depended on where you were going to go. In my area, it was either Morgan State, Howard, or
Was it just harder for black athletes to be accepted outside of an HBCU?
No, yeah. Well, they weren't being accepted until. Back the time when I started, there was a few people opening the doors, especially up in the north, like Michigan's and all those kind of places.
Sure. Was it? Did you feel like it would be easier in Miami?
No. It wasn't
Okay.
the point that it was easier. But Miami turned out to be a great place to be because it was international. The campus was international. We had people from all over the world there, so you got exposed to all different types of people. We had people from. You think of we had people from everywhere, and with different attitudes from everywhere. So you had to pretty much get along. But it was a time of change here in this country, and we were integrating. Hey, listen, we were integrating Southern football. Now I don't know what you know about. I mean, I know you know football. But when you get down south.
It's a different beast.
Football is a whole different beast.
Yeah.
It's the king.
Yeah.
And people know their football. They know everything. And when you come, you better be coming to play. Because if you're not coming to play, you out.
Yeah.
Because you know what? Their whole thing is, oh, you don't want to play? See ya.
Yeah.
Next man up. And that next man could play.
Yeah. Did you feel like it added extra pressure to you when you were down there? Like
Well,
you had to be on top of your game
I just-
academically and athletically?
I was just definitely academically and athletically, especially academically. You had to be academically ready so you could be ready to play athletically.
Mm-hmm. Sure, yeah.
Because they kept, like if you didn't do your grades, you weren't on the field. And in those days, you had a freshman football team and then you had the varsity football team. So they gave you time to develop. Before you stepped up to the next level.
Okay.
And so that was it. But in the meantime, still. there were things that you knew you had to do to be on the football field. Number one was to make sure my mother and father said, you carry yourself the way you carry yourself around here. Don't you let me have a coach call here and tell me you out of line, because I wasn't going to be out of line. But they told me, if that happens, then I'm going to come see you. That's my dad. And then my dad told the coach, now, if you get out of line with my son, then I'm going to come see you.
Wow. So I mean, when you hear that, I mean, what are you thinking when you hear that?
I'm thinking my dad's in my corner, because I know what he brings.
Yeah.
My dad brings the smoke. You know what I mean? So I'm like, oh, wow, Dad, you coming like that? But he was making a statement like, my son's coming in here, but you need to know he's got two strong parents that support him.
Yeah.
And if he's out of line, you call me and I'll take care of it, or you can take care of it, but let me know if he's out of line. But please don't be out of line with my son, because I'm going to come see you.
I think it's an interesting point, because coaching over the years has changed. It used to be the drill sergeant,
right,
the hard, structured, we're going to push you beyond your limits. And now I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but it just doesn't seem like coaches can go down that road much anymore.
Well, they can't go like the way they used to go, but I think discipline's always great. There's one thing, being on time, making that commitment, doing the things that you need to do to be the best that you can be, whether it's in the classroom, whether it's playing football. Those are important. And my parents always instilled that in me, and every coach. Look, my high school football coach, Adam Craven and Roy Cromer, and then Homer Brooks was my basketball coach. Each and every one of those guys were disciplinarians, and they made you work hard. And once you worked hard, they made you work harder.
And you understood why they did what they did.
And I understood what they were going to do. I remember one time coming home and said, Dad, this guy's picking on me. Why don't you go talk to him? Who's picking on you, son? Coach. What's he doing? He's making me do things that the other guys don't do. He says, oh. Well, don't you know why? Yo, he's picking on me. He said, son, I asked you a question. Do you know why? And then I said, well, no. He says, that's because they think you might have something special. So don't come home to me anymore complaining about your coach helping you be the best that you can be. That was the end of that story.
Wow. There are some, and I don't want to say kids or athletes, some people feel like they need to be protected because they don't. But it seems like if there's if you're pushed to do something that's outside of your comfort zone, right, there's a lot of pushback and resistance nowadays.
But there's a way to do it, though. You can do it in a way where you're strong and you're persistent to make sure a guy does the thing. But there's a different way to do it than being disrespectful, because some coaches do cross the line. And see, and I unfortunately for me, I wasn't associated with a coach like that coming up, but I've seen him. I mean, we had one at the University of Miami, but he was, like not my position coach, but I just thought he was a jerk. But for the most part, just early on, as far as being an athlete, and some of the great athletes I watched when I was in high school, or that were in my hometown, that set the standard for. I mean, there's some great guys, but didn't get the opportunity that I got, but certainly deserved it. But like getting to Miami and having that experience down there, and the coaches, like I said, my high school coach, my college coaches, Whitey Campbell was my running back coach. Larry Beckers was my freshman coach. Jimmy Dye was my cornerback coach. All of them were. Charlie Tate was the head coach at the time. Walter Kish, all those people, that group of people, dialed into with the things that I could do, and expected me to put the time and the work in
to work on each and every one of those aspects.
Skill sets, yeah.
So, you talked about the relationship before we get into the coaches with the university president. When you're down there,
Right.
how did the relationship with the university president, like a student coming in normally doesn't get
Right.
an intimate relationship, a
Right.
personal relationship. How does that come about for you to kind of have that sort of status?
Well, I think one of the things for us, I think at the University of Miami and the program at the time that I came in, they were just starting to integrate the program. I told you the first two guys that got there before me, Ray Bellamy, Tom Sullivan, and but they, it was a part of the recruiting that we went to see Dr. Henry King Stanford. He was the president at the time because he was insisting that the program be integrated. And so he wanted to visit with the recruits and their parents coming down and to let them know that he was there to support us.
Like he's got a goal and a vision.
Goal and a vision to make sure that he said, and it was like, you're going to graduate. Like I don't know of any presidents that have that type of personal relationship with their students, but he had that relationship with us. And a great man, whether it was him, his secretaries, or, hey, listen, let's put it to you this way. If I had an issue, heck with the coach, I'd go to the president. That's right. And I mean, and even after I graduated, and he lived in a place called Americus, Georgia. And I was driving back, and he was up there. I'd stop up there to visit with him in Americus, Georgia, and he was just a real special man. And he was like an Indiana Jones. I don't know if I told you that.
No.
He used to go on these safaris. I don't know what you call them, but these trips. And he was it was like he was, that character Indiana Jones.
Oh, excursions, I think is what they call them.
I don't know what they call them, but that was him. He would be out there searching for artifacts and stuff like that on Egypt and you name it. He was there, and he'd have it filmed and everything, and you could I'd go there and he'd just play it, and I'm like, wow, he was an adventurer. But he was a brilliant man, but he was one of the finest human beings I've ever met.
One of the coaches there once said, and I think this is an interesting quote, and you can tell me if this is incorrect or not, because I saw it, the internet's always right.
Right.
Chuck Foreman, what is it? That Chuck Foreman doesn't have a move that you can teach. You're born with it. Was that Fran Sersky? Is that his name?
Fran Kersey. Yeah.
Kersey, okay.
He was the second head coach, and Fran was he was a young coach. He was energetic. He ended up leaving and going to Kentucky and coaching over there for many years. But he, one of my favorite coaches for sure.
One of the guys.
The only thing about Coach Kersey though was he said this, because he loved me at wide receiver because it gave me isolated. Well, you probably not gonna play running back in the pros. You know that, don't you? I'm like, what do you mean? You'll be playing running back or something like that. I mean, wide receiver or something like that. I'm like, because it was almost like he was telling me I couldn't do it, but I don't know if that was what he was saying. He might have been saying that's where he would like to see me play.
So, you look at the numbers, and, your numbers are still, if there are only a few schools, I think, that have the prestige of history, the Notre Dames, the Michigans, the Ohio States, the U. You don't even have to say.
You don't have to say it.
You don't have to say it. You just say the U, and your name is still all those legends that have come through. Your numbers are still on a lot of those top 10 lists.
Well, yeah. Well, you got to remember one thing too, Chris. I played running back 1 year. I played wide receiver 1 year. And then I played cornerback 1 year, and I played both ways in one season. That was my junior year, I mean. And so, I never had a real chance to, just concentrate on one position, but I will say one thing. It made me the player that I am because I was able to do all those different things. And coaches thought enough of me to be able to move me to all those positions.
You talked about Ray Bellamy,
Right.
And the influence that he was on you. The Gold Dust Twins.
Right.
You with Tom Sullivan. What kind of a guy was Tom Sullivan?
Tom Sullivan was the coolest dude you ever meet in your life. Gone too soon. Was one of my favorite people of all time. I can't say enough about Sully. I think we all held him in such high regard. He was just a laid back, hardest working dude. And he used to have a Volkswagen, remember those Volkswagen buses? I mean, we had that was his.
Oh, the old VW bus,
VW bus. That was his vehicle of choice. You know what I mean? I'm like, man, how come you not riding a Corvette or something? Man, I don't want a Corvette. I got mine little, it was like his little adventure van. Let's say it for like, they had everything in it back in those days. But he was just one of the kindest people, one of the finest people I've ever had the privilege of being around in my life. And life is going too soon.
So at the end of the day, when you're talking about everything that you did at the University of Miami, football aside, the numbers are there, the legacy's there. I know you were just down there not too long ago. You said that Miami's a vibe, and every time that I see you talk about it, you've just got this. You just kind of brings you back to a point in time where I can see the positive memories are flowing out. But what are you going to? Your ultimate impressions about your time at Miami, in Miami, University of Miami, and because I know it's still a special place to you.
Miami is one of the greatest times of my life. Whether it was the school, the friends, the people I played football with down there, all of them. Some of the experiences we had down there. I remember we were playing, where were we playing? Tulane. I think it was. Yeah, Tulane in New Orleans. Back when I was a sophomore, I think. Yeah, about. And we got these death threats, that if we go out and play on the field, then, we may not come off the field, something like that type of thing. And coach comes. Did
you take those seriously at the time?
Oh, yeah. And, it's like Coach Kersey comes, Coach says, listen, I want you guys to know that this is what's happening. Now, if you don't want to play, you don't have to play.
Wow, and, gave you guys the option.
Yeah. He says, now, if you don't want to play this game, you don't have to play this game. And I'm like, man, I'm going to play this game. But I do remember when we came off the field, the whole team, every time we came off the field to play, the team surrounded us.
To kind of shield you from the public? Okay.
Shield us from anything that could have happened. I think that was one of the greatest moments of my experience at the University of Miami.
Shows the brotherhood and the sticky, because it would be easy to get caught up in everything. And nowadays it's like, okay, I don't like you, we're different. It doesn't matter if we have these commonalities.
Right.
It's almost like our differences supersede our commonalities, where it seemed like it was flipped. It's like, you know what, no matter what, we're teammates.
Right.
First of all,
we got so much more that we are alike than the few things we have that are not alike.
Yeah.
And that's how I look at life. It's like, hey, if that's the way you feel, that's cool with me. I feel the way I do, you feel the way you do. That's the beauty of the country.
It's the beauty of this land.
Hey, go to Arlington Cemetery and ride through it. Experience that experience. And you'll see what I mean. Go up to Gettysburg. I'm lucky to be able to go up and down there when I'm home. I usually go through there every 2 times I'm home. Just to remember, as a reminder of all the great people that have sacrificed the ultimate thing, their life, to give us this wonderful opportunity. So that's how I do it. And, I remember taking my oldest son, Jay, there, and we were driving through it, and he was like, I don't feel comfortable here, Dad. I'm like, why? I don't know. He was feeling.
It was just kind of
overwhelming for him. Yeah, it was overwhelming for him. I'm saying, well, you feel that feeling? Well, that's just the people thanking you for coming to visit.
Wow. And if you think about it too, with everything that you had to go through, when you went through it, you were making that transition from the north to the south,
right,
in a very contentious time. Like
it was.
I think. Do you ever look back on it?
Hey, man, look,
like,
let's put it this is
yeah.
It wasn't until 1965 that my parents got the right to vote, Voting Rights Act. 4 years later, I'm at the Deep South in the school, going to play football in Tulane. I mean, not that New Orleans isn't a good place, but I'm saying that was one of my experiences that I remember because of all the reaction of my teammates. But we had I had a lot of nice guys on our team. You know what I mean?
It sounds like guys that also stood up for one another.
And so, like when you go to school together, you eat lunch together, you breakfast together, dinner together, and you go play football and practice together, you can't help but develop some good friendships like that. I mean, and we did. And those were the happiest days of my, high school too, but I'm just saying, as far as my journey goes, my college experience was beautiful.
That's awesome. And I'm glad that we got a chance to talk about that and talk about your upbringing, getting into that, because I feel like, if we're going to tell the story of Chuck Foreman, we know about the Vikings days, and that's,
right,
what some people want to hear. But I think we also you got to set the stage, because there's a lot of human interest in everything that you do. Every experience helps lead you into the person that you ultimately become.
Yeah, for sure. And, like I met a lot of nice people along the way. I've met some people that, learn to stay away from too, by the way. But you got to navigate through all that to get to where you want to be. And I try to. I certainly ain't perfect, that's for sure. But I try to be as good a person as I can. I want to be all my mother and father hoped that I would be.
Well, I would say that, according to Vikings fans and how much you are loved and revered in this area, that I would say that you have succeeded in that. And hopefully, people hearing these stories, and, the more that people get to know the personal side of Chuck Foreman, that can kind of fill in more pieces of the puzzle. And just seeing your reaction and just the body language when you're talking about these things, that's what I love about just hearing the stories and being able to really get a feel for who someone is outside of, what we see in the public and playing football.
Well, I think so. I think there's a lot of things that people don't get an opportunity to know nowadays, because people are you got to be so much more careful. And you should be careful anyway, but I'm saying now things are different. Every little thing you do, can be exposed if you make a mistake or you say something wrong. Let's put it like this. I'm glad social media wasn't around when I was younger.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't even imagine. Well, I didn't have social media in the in the early '90s, but man, I could not even imagine. What like the sort of things that would have been caught back in back in your days.
Just the way you can see it now, and I'm like, man, look, I scares me.
Yeah, it's there's almost too much information or too much access to things out there.
Right, they got to ring that in somehow. I don't know if they can, but the people got to be a little more responsible.
Yeah. Well, one thing I wish that we would have been able to rein in is the end of the 1975 season, and we call it the push-off. And we're going to talk about, because you had said that the 1975 Vikings were
That's the greatest team that I ever played on.
greatest team that you ever played on. I want to get into the 1975 Vikings next time we get together, if that's okay.
We can do that for sure.
All right, we'll get into the 1975 Vikings next time. We are talking with Chuck Foreman. Reminder that this is the Spin Doctors In. It is Chuck Foreman's personal podcast. This is where you can get exclusive stories from Chuck. We'll talk about the Vikings, talk about his personal side as well. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed this. If you're a Viking fan, let other Viking fans know. We're on YouTube, iTunes, iHeart, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast, whether it's audio, video. However, and follow Chuck on all of his socials on Facebook, Instagram, and X. So for Chuck, I'm Chris. Until next week, so long, everybody. Skol.